Today's gospel reading comes out of the 13th chapter of Matthew, verses 44 to 46 inclusive. Now, although the gospel reading is short in composition, is long in meaning, and what I want to look at this morning is the opening verse of today's gospel reading, verse 44, 13th chapter of Matthew, because I find this verse interesting and at the same time very confusing. Let's take a look at the verse I'm referring to. Jesus said to his disciples, "The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure buried in a field, which a person finds and hides again. And out of joy goes and sells all that he has and buys that field." Now, when you allow your eyes and your mind to feast upon that verse 44, 13th chapter of Matthew, what do you find interesting about this man who finds a treasure? When he finds the treasure, what does he do with it? He hides it. Is that what you would do? That's not what I would do. Now, if I found a treasure in a field or anywhere, I would take that treasure and I would run and go show my family and see any friends I have. I'd show them that treasure. But the guy doesn't show anyone. He simply hides it. Now, what I really find amazing is this. If you look back on that verse, and the third line up from the bottom to the far left of that third line, which I believe is an adverb, look at the word again. It says, which he finds and hides again. Now that means what? You can't do something again until you do it the first time. So clearly that means there was a time prior to this that the man found that treasure. He buried that treasure at another time. Now he finds the treasure and he hides it again. This is the second time the guy hides that same treasure. Now it says, out of joy he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Why was he so joyous? This is what I kind of have in my mind that ruminates. He found the treasure once before he hides it. But then he couldn't remember where he hid it. Like the squirrel can't figure out where I put all those nuts. Now the guy stumbled upon the treasure the second time. He thought to himself, I'm going to hide it again. But this time I'm going to buy the entire field. I'm going to dig to the field. Now I know where the treasure's at. It's in my field. It's right here. That's why he was so joyful. But the question is, why would you hide it the first time? Why would you hide it the second time? What is the tragedy of what he did? The true tragedy of this little story, of this little verse 44, which is powerful, 13th chapter of Matthew, is this. When you understand what the word treasure means, everything is predicated upon that word. So I looked it up in Webster's dictionary, and this is what I found as the first definition to the word treasure. Let's take a look. Webster's dictionary definition of word treasure. Treasure is anything that makes life worthwhile. That is treasure. What do you treasure? What makes your life worthwhile? Family makes life worthwhile. What is it? Your possessions makes life worthwhile. Friends make life worthwhile. Love makes life worthwhile. Helping someone else makes life worthwhile, because when you do that, you feel good about yourself. But this guy took his treasure, that which makes life worthwhile, be it family, be it friends, be it love, be it any type of material asset, any kind of financial quality, and he simply gets rid of it. And his life was not enhanced, it was not enriched, because he decided not to use one of the greatest assets we all have in life, that is treasure. It reminds me of Jack Smith. Jack Smith was 5 years old when his dad died. Right next to Jack Smith was Mr. and Mrs. Belzer. Now, Mr. Belzer was a cabinet maker. He worked with wood. He made all kind of fabulous wood products. And after Jack Smith's dad died, Jack Smith struck up a relationship with Mr. Belzer. And every Saturday, Jack Smith would spend the entire day in the wood shop of Mr. Belzer. Now, Mr. Belzer spent these Saturdays explaining wood to Jack. He showed Jack every Saturday how to use wood tools properly. He showed Jack with great patience how to use wood machinery and the proper way to use it and the safe way to use it. Every Saturday, year after year, Jack was over at Mr. Belzer's in his wood shop, learning, trying, learning, and learning even more. Jack grew up, he went off to college, and after college, he started to build homes and be a very successful home builder, building over 1,000 homes a year, a couple hundred miles away from where he was born and raised. And one day, Jack was in his office, and the phone rang, and he picked it up, and it's his mom. She said, "Jack, I have some really bad news." "What is it, Mom?" Jack said. Mr. Belzer died last night. And Jack said, when's the funeral, Mom? Because that's one funeral I would never miss in a million years. She said, son, it's on Wednesday. So Jack definitely planned on going to the funeral. On Wednesday, he made his way to the funeral. As he's driving to the funeral, he's reminiscing about his life with Mr. Belzer. Jack thought to himself, everything I have in life, I owe to Mr. Belzer. He taught me about wood and tools. That's probably why I became a home builder. I credit all of this and this great success to Mr. Belzer. After the funeral, Jack was talking to Mrs. Belzer. And Mrs. Belzer told Jack that, Jack, I'm going to sell the house, I'm going to sell the wood shop and all the tools. I have to downsize. I have to move into a smaller apartment. It's just too big for me right now. I just have to leave. And Jack said to Mrs. Belzer, you mind if I go back and stop at the house? And I want to go in a wood shop just one last time before you dismantle everything and sell it off and move to your apartment. She said, sure, follow me. So Jack followed Mrs. Belzer over to the house, and they got into the wood shop, and Jack is looking around, and it was just the way he remembered it. And he's taking deep breaths, smelling the beauty of that wood, the smell of cut cedar and knotty pine. The cut of smelt wood is just so fabulous. You can't buy it inside of an aerosol can. It's a great smell. And Jack was taking in all the sights and the smells of that wood shop, and he's looking around, and he looks at Mr. Belzer's desk, and he said to Mrs. Belzer, something's missing. She said, what is it? He said, there was a gold box on the desk. And Mr. Belzer told me the thing he treasured most in his life was inside of that gold box, and I don't see the gold box. And she said, well, the other day, just before Mr. Belzer died, he told me to get that gold box and put it in an envelope and a big package and mail it to you. I mailed it to your office. Well, Jack couldn't wait to get home, to get his office and see if that package was there. When he got to his office, there was the package. He opened it up and took it out. There was the gold box. What's inside of the gold box, he thought, is the thing that Mr. Belzer treasured the most. That's what he told me Saturday after Saturday. Jack opened up the box, and there was a pocket watch inside of that box. And Jack turned the pocket watch around, and it had an inscription that said this, Jack, the great treasure of my life was spending every Saturday with you in my wood shop. Thank you for spending time with me, Mr. Belzer. Tears were rolling down Jack's eyes, dropping off of his cheeks, puddling on the floor. And Jack put the pocket watch into his pocket. And he walked outside of his office, and he said to his secretary, cancel all my appointments for the rest of the day. I'm going home. I'm going to get my son, and we're going to spend the entire day together. Because Mr. Belzer taught me two things about life. He taught me about wood. That's why I became a home builder. But right now, Mr. Belzer, when I didn't know what his most treasured possession was, it turned out to be the time I spent with him. He taught me about spending time with your treasure. He said to his secretary, I'm going home to spend time with my son. I'm going to spend all day with him today, all day with him tomorrow, all day with him the next day. I've made a big mistake in my life. I've been so busy making money, being successful at building homes. Always want to build more this year than the year before. I forgot my greatest treasure. I forgot about my son. And I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing and spend time with my son. That's my treasure. That's my asset. And what Jack did for many years is he buried his treasure, his son. He had a son back home waiting for Dad to come home and play with him, but Jack was just too busy. But Mr. Belzer taught him about treasure and time. There it is. Treasure is anything that makes life worthwhile. How easy it is in life to take your treasure and throw it away. How many people take their family and they shove them off in a corner? I'm too busy right now. How many people take their friends, someone they were really once close to, and they just shut that person off and bury them somewhere? I don't have time for them right now. How many people take their treasure and they hide it in a field, or they hide it? The tragedy is, like this man, he hid it again 2 times. He found it once. He found it twice. I made the same mistake over and over and over again. Refer to verse 44, 13th chapter of Matthew. Anytime you think you're losing your priority and sense of what's important in life is treating your treasure well. Never hiding your treasure. Never sticking in a corner and walking away from it once, twice. But taking your treasure and using it, enjoying it. Jack said to his secretary, I'm taking the rest of the day off and tomorrow the next day. Because Mr. Belzer taught me about water, but he taught me about treasure. And I've made a mistake. My greatest treasure in life is my son. And from this day forward, I'm going to spend more time with him and less time building homes. I'm going to enjoy my treasure because that's what makes my life worthwhile.